Welcome to Glimpses of a Glorious Past, an informal history of the Lawrence School Lovedale, presented by the O. Laurentian Association.
Last week at the OL Assembly, the Vice President of the OLA, Mrs. Beena Beliapa, did mention that Glimpses of a Glorious Past is one of the segments of the OL show which was being spun off to be broadcast as a show on its own. On behalf of the Glimpses team, I extend to you a most cordial welcome to our show. I would also like to invite you to check out a new blog called the OLA Glimpses blog at olalovedale.blogspot.com. This blog is being set up to complement the ebook Glimpses of a Glorious Past, an informal history of the Lawrence School Lovedale, which was published during Founders 2017, which I had the privilege of editing. Many of you know that Glimpses is in 3 volumes. Book 1, which covers the period from 1858 to 1908, starts with Sir Henry Lawrence and his plans for these asylums. And then it goes on until the advent of another legendary figure in Lovedale history, the Reverend Padfield, in 1908. Book 2 is for the period from 1908 to 1958 and covers the balance part of the British Raj. It also covers the part when India became independent, and for some time there was considerable uncertainty about the future of the school. But things fortunately got sorted out, and the school went on to celebrate its centenary in 1958. You and I, and many of us, are more familiar with the period covered in Volume 3, which is from 1958 to 2008. This blog, as I mentioned, complements the book and is therefore not the book itself. However, the blog will have interesting snippets and extracts about people and events that are written about in the book. The blog will also have links to more supplementary material, to more videos, to more pictures and images, and even podcasts to enrich the content, as also your experience as a reader, a viewer, or a listener. It's our earnest desire to engage you more, and we feel that the blog could be yet one more avenue. So please feel free to send in your comments, your suggestions, and your perspective on matters discussed in these blogs.
In the last episode, the 10th of our series, presented as a part of the OL Assembly, we saw school in the final years of the British Raj. In this episode, we will talk of some momentous events that took place in India and in school from 1946 to 49. With the end of World War II in 1945, it seemed as a matter of time before British would give up India, the legendary jewel in the crown.
It is well documented how the Indian National Army, the INA trials, and the mutinies of varying intensity in the Royal Indian Navy, the Royal Indian Air Force, and some units of the British Army in 1946 hastened the end of the British Empire in India. The Reverend F.R.L. Brooke resigned as the principal and was succeeded by Major A.V. Richardson, the headmaster, in 1946. Major Richardson was the last of the Englishmen who were principals of the school since Reverend Whitehouse in 1862. O. Laurentian, Peter Fortune, who left school in 1946, wrote in to us, "I am the last of 16 of the extended Fortune family admitted to the school from 1862 to 1935, descendants of 2 British Army men, my great-grandfather and his brother, who arrived in India about 1830. Also, my mother's family were living in India, and she and her 3 siblings spent all their elementary school years in India between 1902 and 1912, I attended from 1935 to 1946. At the age of 5 years and 9 months, I was like hundreds of other boys and girls, enrolled there from a very tender age. For a great many, it was the only school we attended. I like to think that such a long association with the school is what engendered in us such a love and fierce loyalty for the institution. 1947 saw the dreadful partition of India. Consequently, the Lawrence School, Gora Gully, established in 1860, went to the new state of Pakistan, while the schools at Sanaur, established in 1847, Mount Abu, 1856, and Lovedale, 1858, remained with India. The tragedies surrounding the partition were largely confined to the north of India. Life went on as usual at Lovedale. General Sir Archibald Nye, a governor of Madras, was the chief guest for Founders in 1947. The Founders Parade, as always, was commanded by the legendary Sarji, Major Ernest J. Nichols, who virtually ran the non-academic side of the school single-handedly.
When India won her independence in August 1947, a large number of British civilians and army officers withdrew from the country. The future of the school became uncertain. There were real apprehensions that school may even collapse.
Soon, the staff were terminated, and most of the British staff went back to England. The government decided to reduce grants in aid. The Board of Trustees and Board of Governors wisely decided to hand over the institution to India with all of its assets and liabilities on the condition that the entitled children will continue to get the facilities which they were enjoying before. They knew that the school could not last without the government's grants and aid. In their report dated May 31st, 1948, the committee appointed to examine the question of the future organization of the Lawrence military schools comprised of Mr. P.V.R. Rao, J. Dayal, M.S. Sundaram, and Brigadier J.H. Wilkinson. They said, "We are satisfied that there are facilities to run a first-class public school for Lovedale. For any public school to run efficiently and economically, it must have at least 300 pupils on its rolls. Many of the current 300 may be expected to be removed from the school shortly. We feel if a public school open to all without restriction of nationality or creed is available in the Nilgiris, it will meet a long-felt need. It is essential that admission to a public school run by the government should not be confined only to those rich persons who can afford to pay high fees to the extent of 1,200 rupees a month per annum. We recommend, therefore, that the government must accept liability to educate free of cost or at concessional rates at this school a limited number of children who, on merits, are capable of benefiting by a public education system, but whose parents are unable to afford the necessary expenditure. The government decided to bring Sanaur, Lovedale, and Mount Abu on a common plane. On May 14, 1949, the school passed into the hands of the Government of India and the crisis was over. The Government of India decided to run the institution as a public school for boys and girls and changed the name of the school from the Lawrence Memorial Royal Military School to the Lawrence School, Lovedale, Nilgiris.
We are fortunate to have all our entrants from those times who can speak of their experiences. Kevin Phillips, a Ravli, Vice Head Boy in 56, is one of the significant contributors of Glimpses. He was in school from 1948 to 56 and as a small boy lived in Lovedale's Red Fort. Don't be shocked, girls' school used to be prep school back in the day.
I joined the Lawrence Memorial School, Lovedale, on the 5th of March 1948. The school is still very British. The nearest we get to Indian cuisine is vermicelli pulao on Sundays. Although it's nearly 6 months after independence, the school is still very British, with many British staff. Principal Major A.V. Richardson, Dr. Captain Cadogan, military instructor Ernest James Nichols, Bandmaster Victor Harold Prince, History Master Mr. Trutman, Maths Master Mr. Brooks, Girls Headmistress Miss Mather, Prep School Headmistress Mrs. Richardson, Prep School Teacher Miss Harvey. Each morning we are woken by a delightful old bearer. These attendants are called mateys. We nickname him Pull-em-up. At breakfast each morning we greet the staff. Good morning, Miss Howie. Good morning, Miss Prince, in song fashion. All lady staff are called Miss, irrespective of their marital status. Major Richardson's successor and the first Indian to be principal was Dr. Siraj Bhan, MA London, Diploma in Education, PhD Edinburgh. Writing in the Lawrence in November 1980, Mrs. Shakuntala Bala, Senior Mistress, recalled Dr. Siraj Bhan's. A small instance would show the impression Dr. Siraj Bhan made on people. When he visited Lawrence School in 1977 as member of the board, 8 years after being principal, the school bookbinder who had worked with him dug out an old dusty cardboard on which was pasted the photographs of all the principals he had worked for. In the center was Dr. Siraj Bhan's portrait. He whispered that of all the principals he had worked for, Dr. Siraj Bhan was by far the best. Dr. Siraj Bhan replied, "Neither has time stood still with me or you," and hugged him affectionately. Dr. Siraj Bhan left to be replaced by Dr. G.F. Lakhani, B.A. Bombay, Diploma in Education, PhD Edinburgh in 1949. Sadly, his term did not extend beyond a year. Dr. Lakhani persuaded Dr. P.V. Subramaniam to join the school from Briggs. Over the years, he became a leading figure among the teaching staff in Lovedale, becoming the senior master in 1959. The school had a very rocky start post-independence, having had 3 principals from 1949 to 1950, Major Richardson, Dr. Siraj Bhan, and Dr. Lakhani. The school retained its old colonial title. The King's Colour, now encased in large hall, is still on parade along with the school colour. On September 6th of 1949, the school presented, the King's Colour presented to the school in 1921 by its royal patron, HRH, the Duke of Connaught, was trooped for the last time, the band playing Auld Lang Syne. The escort and colour marched off in slow time down the line of guards. This was the school's farewell to the old colour. The old colour was then encased and subsequently laid to rest in the large hall where it exists today. The new Indian colour was uncased, laid across the drums and consecrated. The principal handed the colours to His Excellency the Maharaja of Bhavnagar for presentation. Prefect Cranfield received the colour, sinking on his right knee. The Indian colour now took place of the King's colour. Before we start class, we say Christian Church of England prayers, regardless of religious denomination. This practice has its roots in Sir Henry Lawrence's wish that students have a Christian note, not a Catholic upbringing. Each Sunday, all three schools, again irrespective of religious leanings, there are a few Hindus, Muslim, Parsis and Sikhs, attend church parade with a band in attendance, and the kings and school colours are marched into the church and laid on the altar. After the service, there is a march past with the principal or maybe a visiting dignitary taking the salute. We Catholics have a bad deal, having to attend Mass before breakfast and then the Church of England service afterwards. Muslims, Sikhs, Hindus and Parsis get to attend their own religious instructions later on. I am in the old prep school with the model of a doll's house for the girls' dormitories and a model of a fort with lead soldiers. Afternoon, I am in class 1. Transition and infants are the lower classes, and compulsory afternoon siesta is the norm. At 6 p.m. we have our supper, and then we are put to bed by pulling up by 7 p.m. No study, thankfully.
With this, we come to the end of another episode of Glimpses of a Glorious Past, an informal history of the Lawrence School, Lovedale. Thank you for watching. Please tune in on October 23rd to OL Nation, as always on the 4th Saturday of every month. The next offering from the OLA team is Large Hall Live, a 30-minute program being launched around November 6th, 2021, showcasing the talent of old Laurentians. If you play instruments, sing, dance, engage in interesting hobbies, and would like to get on this show, reach out to us at olalovedale@gmail.com.